wait comments. Time, which is a default module. When we install a Python, we will get a time module. In Selenium WebDriver, we have implicit wait as well as we have explicit wait. Why we need to go for wait comments? So before trying to see why we need to go for wait comments, every automation tool has a synchronization problem. Every automation tool has a synchronization problem. We'll see in a while what is synchronization problem. And to solve the synchronization problem, we use wait comments. We use wait comments. Then what is a synchronization problem? What is a synchronization problem? So when I say a synchronization problem, it is nothing but you have seen it previously. Whenever you are executing any script, you are just facing no such element exception, element not clickable exception. These are the exceptions you face whenever you are trying to automate an web application. Let me make you clear with these points. Sometimes web page loading takes more time than the speed of the WebDriver. We have discussed. You have written the script. Whenever you execute this particular script, the script execution is faster than the loading of the WebDriver. In some cases, there may be some network issue, there may be the site issue. Any reason could be, you will face exceptions. What are the exceptions you face whenever there is a synchronization problem? So these are the exceptions which you face. No such element exception, no such window exception, no such frame exception. If there is any frame or any window in that particular browser which you want to interact, no alert present exception, element not visible exception, element not selectable exception, timeout exception. These are the most common, most frequent exceptions which you face if there is a synchronization problem in the loading of that web page. This is very important interview question. What are the most common type of exceptions you have faced whenever you are trying to automate an web application? No such element exception, no such window exception, no such frame exception, no alert present exception, element not visible, element not selectable, as well as even though that element is present, if it takes more time to load in that particular web page, then definitely we will get timeout exception. We'll get timeout exception. See, most probably, in order to handle all these exceptions, we have Python time module. We have Python time module. So let us try to discuss about what is a Python time module. So Python time module is nothing but this is the default module. When you install a Python, you will get time module. In the time module, you will have sleep method. So sleep means you are just asking that particular script, you just halt or pause the script execution for some seconds. That seconds you will specify. Like you can take this example, time dot sleep. So when I specify 10 here, this is nothing but time in seconds. So whenever you just specify, instead of driver dot implicit wait, we used to specify implicit wait in the previous scripts. So instead of implicit wait, we can specify time dot sleep. Time dot sleep. This is what we can try to mention here, but we will see a separate script. Just for your understanding, I'm making you understand that, you know, instead of implicit wait, which we are using previously, instead of that, we can use time dot sleep, and I can specify the time in seconds, which I want to halt this particular script. After I mention the time, whatever the statements are there after the time module, those are all halted for the specified time. Those are all halted or passed the execution of the statements for the specified time. So for this, we need to import the time module, which we will see in a while. We'll make one separate script, and so that you can understand. And what are the disadvantages? Before going to this, we can see the advantages. So it is very simple to use. One major advantage is it is very simple to use. Then, what are the disadvantages of this particular time module, when I use time module, if you see, every time if I want to break the script or pass the script for some time, will make my script takes more time. If it is taking more time, then definitely performance matters. Performance of the script is very poor because it is just waiting for the time which I specified. So that performance is very poor. If the element is not available within the time mentioned, suppose if the web page is still loading, or even after the 10 seconds which you mentioned here, still the element is not available, then still there is a chance of exception. If the element is not available with the within the specified or mentioned time, still there is a chance of getting an exception. So this is what time module in the Selenium WebDriver to some extent avoids synchronization problem. Again, I am repeating, what is a synchronization problem? Web page takes more time to load than speed of the WebDriver, or I can say speed of the automation script. In the automation script, you will anyway interact with the WebDriver. So indirectly, I have said, then the speed of the WebDriver. In such cases, you will face exceptions. So if you face exceptions, then definitely there will be a synchronization problem. To avoid synchronization problem, we use wait commands. One is time, the other is implicit wait and explicit wait. Very important. We have seen what is time, what it does. Then coming to waits in Selenium WebDriver, first is implicit wait. First is implicit wait. Very, very important. We will see a script in a while. Don't worry. What is implicit wait? When I say implicit wait, it tells the WebDriver to wait a certain amount of time, right? As like you specified the time in the sleep, you can also specify the time in the implicit wait. You have to call the implicit wait through WebDriver variable, because this implicit wait is coming from the Selenium WebDriver. So whatever the things which you want to import from the WebDriver, definitely after initialization of the driver variable, you need to import. So similarly, I have imported implicit wait, driver dot implicit wait. So what it is saying, it asks WebDriver to wait for a certain amount of time before it throwing any exception. Not only no such element exception, still there is a chance of getting, these are all the possible exceptions. Whenever you are automating in any website, not only no such element, you will face all these exceptions. So before throwing an exception, it implicit wait asks the WebDriver to wait for a certain amount of time. That time is nothing but, you can specify whether it is 10 seconds or 3 seconds or 20 seconds or so on. So time you can specify. But by default, that implicit wait is having 0 seconds. Default setting of implicit wait is 0 seconds. Instead of 0 seconds, you can also mention like whatever the time which you want. Once we set the time, the WebDriver will wait for that particular amount of time. As like in the sleep module, you have specified 10 seconds. Yes, the WebDriver will wait for 10 seconds. Similarly, it's not the WebDriver will wait for 10 seconds here when I use time module. It will pass the script execution. It will pass the script execution. When I use implicit wait, the WebDriver is halted or paused for certain amount of time. This is the major difference between this. So the script execution is passed, that WebDriver is halted for certain amount of time. Then what are the advantages of implicit wait? So as like time module, it is simple to use. Yes, it is also simple to use, and it's a single statement. It's a single statement and very simple to use because we need to just import by using driver variable. And performance will not be reduced because if the element is present within the specified time, you mentioned, it will go and execute next statements. But this is not the case with time module. Even though the element is present within the time you specified, suppose if that element is available on the web page in third second, even though it is available on the web page in the third second, the script is passed for almost 10 seconds. But if you use implicit wait, and if I specify the time for which I want to wait or halt the Selenium WebDriver, definitely if the element is present in third second, it will go and execute the another step of statement. So it will not wait for the whole time which I specified. This is one of the major advantage of implicit wait. So in this case, the performance of the script is not reduced. Performance will not be reduced because if the element is available within the time you specified here, it proceeds to execute further statements. Very important. So most of the times we will use implicit wait. Let us go and let us see one script so that you can understand. See, and before going to that, we can see the disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? If the element is not available within the mentioned time, if the element is not available within the mentioned time, still there is a chance of getting an exception. Very important. In the time module, still there is a chance of getting an exception. Even in the implicit wait, still there is a chance of getting an exception if the element is not available within the mentioned time. Very important. Time, implicit wait. Let us go here and let us create a directory of day 23. Let us try to create one Python file. Let me note it as waits. So in order to do any actions on the WebDriver, first thing you need to do is you need to import WebDriver from the Selenium package. From Selenium, import WebDriver. So these are all the things which you want to do. Similarly, after importing WebDriver, there are a lot of things like you need to import by in order to find any element on the web page. By using any locator, you need to use by so that you can specify the type of locator which you are using to find that particular element. Similarly, desired capabilities for every browser, you will have desired capabilities. Those are in the Chrome options. You have assigned it to a options variable, and in the options we have experimental option, which is used for making the browser open all the time until unless I give close or quit command. Driver dot close, or you can also use driver dot quit command. Very important. You can use driver dot close or driver dot quit. This already we have discussed in commands of Selenium WebDriver. Don't worry. And what I am doing, I am just opening the google.com. Let us go here. So in the google.com, I'm just searching for Selenium and just entering. And if you see, after searching for Selenium, it has landed onto this particular page. In the page, there are so many links which you are having, but I want only this particular link to be clicked. Upon clicking, it will land onto this particular page of that particular website. So what I want to do first, I need to land onto this particular Google page. I need to search here, and thereafter, after searching, I can perform the click action on the Selenium link. So let us try to inspect this. So if you can see here, this is the HTML code of this particular search box. So in this particular search box, you are having ID, having class, you are having type attribute, autocomplete, right? So these are all the things you are having for this search box. So let us try to write what XPath, or instead of XPath also, you can use ID here, ID attribute here. So let us try to do one thing. So what I am doing, so before I will implement this with time module, thereafter I can make you understand by using implicit wait. So driver dot get. So get means it will open the URL which I am just opening. So you can say like it is google.com, right? https colon slash www.google.com. This is the thing which I want to open, and thereafter after opening I need to maximize the window, driver dot maximize window, and I want to find the search box. In the search box, what I can do, I can enter some particular text, some random text, or some some meaningful text. I can say I can send into this particular search box. If you can see here, I will just find that particular search box, driver dot find element by dot id, because you are anyway having id as input in the HTML code. If you see here, you are having input as the id attribute value for this particular search box. So let us try to use that, and thereafter identifying what I need to do, I need to enter text search box dot send keys. When I use send keys method, it will anyway sends the text value to that particular search box. What is that? I need to send Selenium. After sending Selenium, I need to just perform submit button, search box dot submit. So when I say submit here, it is just nothing but clicking the enter button. When I use Selenium here, when I enter Selenium here, what I am doing, I'm just clicking enter button. So instead of enter button in the Selenium WebDriver, we are having submit. When I use submit here, what it will do, it will try to press enter. So I'm just using that, and once I click the enter button, what it will do, let us try to see. I'm just clicking the enter button, it has landed onto this particular web page. After landing onto this particular web page, I need to inspect this particular link so that I can perform the click action. So this is the link. So for this link, what I am having, text is having. So I can identify this particular element by using inner text. So let me try to write one XPath here. So let me try to use relative XPath. It is very important, very easy. So h3 is the tag name, and it is having inner text as Selenium. So when I use that, it will try to highlight these particular two elements it is having. So but I want only the first element to be highlighted. So for this, I'm just using the indexing. When I use index and if I specify that index value, it will only highlight that first element. This is the element which I want to identify. Upon identifying, I need to perform the click action. So let me go here, driver dot find element by dot XPath. When I use XPath, we can use absolute XPath, we can use relative XPath. Let me copy this particular relative XPath, paste it here, and you just be careful with the single and double quotes. Otherwise, when you are executing, you will get an error. So after finding this particular element, I need to perform the click action. Right? This is the operation which I want to do. I need to open google.com. In the search box of this google.com, I am just inputting some value, and thereafter I'm finding that value or the link which has got as a part of the results upon clicking the submit button. So I need to click on that particular link. So upon clicking, I should see whether that particular page is landing. So what I am doing, I'm just implementing time.sleep. Time.sleep. So when I use time.sleep, I'm just specifying the value to which value we can halt this particular script execution. So for this, definitely you need to import time module. Import time module. Very important. Import time module. Import time. So when you import time, you will not get any error. So what I'm doing, after initialization of the driver variable, I'm just using time.sleep. When I use sleep here, the script is halted for 10 seconds. Very important. It will not take care of any element or anything. It will never bother about anything. It will only be used for stopping the script execution for some point of the time, for 10 seconds. If you can see here, let me execute this. it will not open this driver.get means google.com. It will wait for 10 seconds. You are just seeing it here. It is waiting for 10 seconds. Thereafter, it is loading this particular google.com, and thereafter it is maximizing the browser window. If you can see here, you have faced one exception. By.input. It is the search box which you are not able to find. Let us try to see it here. So maybe the ID which we have used is wrong. That will be fine. So we can use name here. Instead of ID, we can use name here. By.name. Name is nothing but Q. So this is what we need to use, the appropriate locator. That will be fine. But my intention is to make you understand, before opening this particular google.com, the script is halted for 10 seconds. That anyway, it will throw an exception because this locator is not able to find that particular element. So that is the reason why you face no such element exception. Don't worry. This is time.sleep. Instead of time.sleep, what I'm doing, I'm using driver.implicit wait. When I use driver.implicit wait, and if I specify the time here, it will applicable to all the statements after the implicit wait. I have defined the implicit wait here. Whatever the statements are present after the implicit wait, that implicit wait is applicable for all the statements after the implicit wait. If there is any synchronization problem, implicit wait will take care of for all these statements. It will not take care of the statements above implicit wait. Once we define implicit wait, if there are any statements after implicit wait will take care of those exceptions. And it will not wait as like time module for the specified time. Implicit wait will wait for the element within that specified time. If the element is present within that specified time, then definitely it will go and execute another statement. So definitely performance of the script is improved. You can see it here. Let me execute that. If you observe, it directly opened this particular google.com. It has not halted for 10 seconds as like time module. It has entered the text which I have given, and thereafter it has performed the click action. This is what you need to understand. Suppose we just try to see the element. So I am just giving the wrong locator here. And so instead of one, when I use this particular locator, it is only highlighting 2 elements, but I'm just giving index as 3. This is the wrong index. There is no element in that particular web page. So what this implicit wait will do, it will wait for this particular element up to 10 seconds. Even though after 10 seconds, if this particular locator is not able to find that particular element, still there is a chance of getting an exception. Let us try to see this. It is opening google.com, enter the text, submitted. It is just waiting for this particular element because this intentionally I have given wrong locator. So to make the script fail, see, if you see, it has waited for 10 seconds and thereafter it has said no such element exception. That element, this element is not at all found on this particular web page. Intentionally I have given wrong locator. In this way, the implicit wait take care of the exceptions within that specified time. If the element is not available within that specified time, definitely still there is a chance of getting an exception. This is what we have discussed in the disadvantages of implicit wait. So most of the times, instead of sleep, we will use implicit wait. Very, 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 very important. Very important. One important point you need to understand. Let me close this browser and let me go it here. Very important point. If the implicit wait is written at the beginning, then it is applicable for all the statements in the script. That means wherever the synchronization problem occurs, implicit wait take care of. This is what we have discussed. So we are just defining the implicit wait at the beginning. And after the implicit wait declaration, if there is any chance of getting an exception within that specified time, implicit wait will be applicable for all these statements after the implicit wait declaration. Very important, but this is not the case with sleep. It will only halt for certain amount of time which you specified. It will not bother about anything. It will not bother about any statement as like implicit wait. I recommend you to use implicit wait. And if you observe, implicit wait is based on time. Implicit wait is based on time. So it will work as per the time which I mentioned. Very important. Anything which is based on time can get an exception. Can get an exception. Then, instead of depending upon time, is there any way to avoid the time dependency? Yes, there is one way. Instead of implicit wait, we can go for explicit wait. Then, what is an explicit wait? Very important. Implicit wait as well as explicit wait. When I say explicit wait, it is depends on specific condition, not based on time. If you see here, implicit wait is based on time which we specified. But this is not the case with explicit wait. It is based on the condition, specific condition, but not based on the time. Very important. So how you can implement explicit wait? Explicit wait can be implemented by using WebDriver wait class. This is the class which is there in the Selenium package. In the WebDriver, we are having WebDriver wait class. You can see that in a while. And one major disadvantage is we have to define at multiple places. In the defining, you will feel some difficulty. You will see this in a while. And one important point, again I am repeating, it is based on condition, not based on time. Very important. Implicit wait based on time. Still there is a chance of getting an exception if the element is not available within that specified time. Coming to explicit wait, it is based on condition, not based on time. Very important. So one advantage is it affects more effectively than other type of waits. Implicit wait as well as time dot sleep. It affects, it works more effectively. Disadvantages are we have to define it multiple places and we feel some difficulty in defining. So how you will feel that difficulty, we will see in a while. So let us go here. Instead of these waits, let me create another module of explicit wait. So whenever we are writing in any automation script, definitely you need to use Selenium. In the Selenium, you need to import WebDriver. And see, in the explicit wait, you will specify what are all the exceptions you will get if there is any synchronization problem. So you need to specify the exceptions which you are going to get whenever you are executing an automation script. That we will see. We have to specify that conditions, that exceptions in the explicit wait declaration. We will see it in a while. If you can see here, that will be fine. What I will do, there are two types how we can define explicit wait. I will show you first how we can define the basic declaration of that explicit wait, and thereafter I can make you understand that how I can define that explicit wait with some ignored exceptions. If there is a chance of getting an exception, you will specify that exception in the explicit wait declaration. We will see that in a while. So these are the common things which you need to do before writing an automation script. If you are seeing here, let me remove these as well. Explicit wait can be implemented by using WebDriver wait. So in the Selenium, we have WebDriver. In the WebDriver, we have support. In the support, we have wait. And in the wait, we have WebDriver class. So for implementing explicit wait, definitely you need to use WebDriver wait. Then how you can declare explicit wait? How you can declare explicit wait. In order to declare explicit wait, there are two things you need to be very clear. One is declaration, and the other thing is usage. So declaration is of two types. One is basic declaration, as well as by using advanced declaration. So in the basic declaration, you will not specify any exceptions, and in the advanced declaration, definitely you will specify some exceptions. We will see basic as well as we will see advanced in a while. Right now we will see the basic. So the basic declaration is, you will just use this WebDriver wait, WebDriver wait, WebDriver wait. In the WebDriver, you will pass two arguments. One is driver, and you will specify the time here. See why I specified time? Don't worry. As I have said previously, that explicit wait is based on condition. But why I am mentioning time here? You will understand this in a while. Don't worry. We are implementing explicit wait by using WebDriver wait. In the WebDriver, we are just passing two arguments. One is the time, and the other is the driver. So driver is nothing but the Selenium WebDriver. And the other thing is, once you declare the WebDriver wait or explicit wait, you can assign it to a one variable. So in this case, I'm just giving some random variable, my wait. So this is the basic declaration of the explicit wait. Basic declaration of the explicit wait. So you can use this particular variable, which is explicit wait declared, to specific element. So this is the condition, and you are just applying this condition wherever you want. So what I will do, I will just go here. Let me try to take the same code which I have used it earlier. So if you see in the implicit wait, I'm just opening this particular google.com, maximizing, finding the search box, entering the text, and thereafter clicking on the enter button, and thereafter finding this particular element. So these are the steps which I am using. But I want to use explicit wait in this particular actions. When you use explicit wait, you no need to use find element. Very important point. When you use explicit wait, you no need to use find element, because find element is already included in explicit wait. Very important point. This is not the case with implicit wait. When you use implicit wait, definitely you need to use find element. But when you use explicit wait, which you have already declared, and you want to just use this particular explicit wait variable in finding and doing some operation, you can use directly instead of find element. So I'm just specifying my wait. This is what the variable which I have defined. My wait dot until. Until means just it is nothing but in the meaning of finding. EC dot. EC dot. I need to import that particular EC. EC is nothing but the expected condition. What is that expected condition? Expected condition. So in the WebDriver, you have support. In the support, I have expected condition. So expecting means you are just expecting that particular element to be present in that particular web page. It is just nothing but finding the element. So you are just expecting and finding is both are same in this context. And you are just assigning this an alias name, another name as easy, just short name. So and I am just using that short name, EC dot presence of element located. So I want this particular element to be located into this particular web page after doing some operations. So I'm just specifying that locator here. And if you can see here, you need to be very careful whenever you are using these brackets. And you should assign it to a one variable. That is, in this case, I'm just using set link. This is some random variable. You can use that random variable. So what you are doing, you have just declared that WebDriver explicit weight, and this is nothing but you are using that explicit weight. This is nothing but usage. So there are two aspects of explicit weight. One is the declaration. This is nothing but the basic declaration, you can say, and the usage. You need to use another bracket here. This is what you are doing. When you use explicit weight, you don't need to use exclusively find element. That find element is already inclusive of this explicit weight variable, because in the WebDriver weight we have that. So you are using again another condition dot in the my weight variable, nothing but WebDriver weight. You have another until, and in the until this particular element is loaded, don't perform any action. That's what I am saying. This is the condition. So in the usage, you are just specifying the condition. So you are just saying this WebDriver until this particular element is loaded, even though it is taking some 1 hour time, 2 hour time, 10 hours of time, until this particular element is loaded. This is the condition actually. You no need to do anything. You should not do anything. I'm just saying that to WebDriver. And once this element is loaded, I'm just correcting the locator from the previous one. Once this element is loaded, you just perform click action. Once this element is loaded, even though if it takes 1 day, 2 day, or 10 days, you just wait for this particular element. Once this element is loaded, you just perform the click action. You just perform the click action. This is what I'm just saying the WebDriver about this particular element. If this particular element is not loaded, you wait for the time until it loads. Until it loads. Otherwise, you don't perform any action after that. This is what I'm trying to say to the WebDriver. So in this case, definitely this particular element will be located on the web page. What I am doing, if you observe here, I have specified the time. I am saying that it is condition based, but I have specified the time. See, you say in common sense, I don't want my script to be halted for 1 day, 2 day, even for 10 minutes also. That element, if that element is not loaded within that specified time, that I want to go and perform another step, but I don't want to wait the time which that element is loading. So as per the standards, there is sometimes if the element to be loaded within 10 seconds, then there is no performance issue of that particular website. If it is still taking more than 10 seconds, then definitely there is a chance of performance issue, and you need to update it to your developers. That will be fine. So what I am saying, yes, you wait for this element, but I don't want you to wait more than 10 seconds. Or you can specify 60 seconds also. When I specify 60 seconds, it will wait for 1 minute. If that element is not present within that one element, okay, we just try to stop this particular execution and throw the error whatever you require. That's what I'm trying to say to this particular driver by using explicit wait. So I can specify 1 hour also. 1 hour means it's like 3600 seconds. So I don't want my script to wait for 1 hour, 2 hours or 1 day. I don't want to take this. Why I want to take? If really that element is loading within the specified time, if it is taking more than that time, I can assume that that element is not present on the web page, or I can assume that that locator is not able to identify that particular element. This is what I can assume. So I'm just saying the WebDriver, nothing but explicit wait. After 10 seconds, if that element is not available, you just try to go out of this loop. I'm just saying that. So for this, what I will do, I'm just giving a wrong locator. This locator will anyway identify the element on the particular web page, but I'm intentionally making it wrong locator. If you can see here, I'm just specifying 4 or 3, which you can. This is the wrong locator. This anyway will not find any element on the web page. So instead of 10 seconds, what I am doing, I'm just specifying some 30 seconds. If I specify 30 seconds, this condition is checking for this particular element for almost 30 seconds. If I specify 60 here, it will wait for the condition to be true. When it will be true, if this particular element is present, this particular expression will be true. So I'm just specifying the time up to which it can wait for this condition to be true. If within this particular time that element is not present, you just go and throw an exception. That's what I'm trying to say to this. For now, just I'm specifying some 15 seconds instead of 10 seconds, so that within less time you will get to understand. Let me try to execute this particular script. And it has opened Google. Yes, it has entered. Clicked for, searching for this particular locator which we have given. So it is waiting for 15 seconds, more than 10 seconds. If the element is not loaded within that 15 seconds, or I can say not available within that 15 seconds, it will throw an exception. Yes, it has thrown an exception. Timeout exception. Because I have specified the time. If you don't specify the time, you don't worry. It will wait for this element to be loaded on this particular web page, even though it is 1 day, 2 day, or 1 month also. But I'm just specifying the timeout. Within this time, I want this particular element to be loaded. If it is not loading, then definitely there is an issue with that particular element. In common sense, I can say. So that is the reason. After 15 seconds, it has thrown an exception. Which exception? Yes, you specified this particular time. 15 seconds. Within this 15 seconds, this particular element is not loaded. So that is the reason why I'm throwing timeout exception. It is what trying to convey us. In this way, you can use explicit wait. If you can see here in the explicit wait, this is what the description, you can see it here. You can see it afterwards. Right now, this is the basic declaration. And if I want to make this particular explicit wait declaration some more advanced, I can specify pole frequency. I can specify all the things. So for this is the advanced declaration of explicit wait. This is the advanced declaration. So in the advanced declaration, you will specify timeout. Yes, as like in the basic declaration, you will specify the driver, you will specify the timeout, which within that time I want my element to be present. If that element is not loaded within that time, you throw an exception. That's what I'm trying to convey. That is fine. This is like basic declaration only. But additionally, I'm just specifying pole frequency, ignored conditions. So these are the ignored conditions. These are the exceptions which I can face at the time of executing this particular script. So I'm just importing these exceptions from the exceptions library in the Selenium package. So this is the exceptions. In the Selenium, you have common. In the common, you have exceptions. What are all the exceptions you are specifying here? No such element. Not only this, we have seen it here. Like these are the different type of exceptions which you can mention here. You can import in the exceptions from the Selenium package. And once you imported that exceptions, you are just specifying that exceptions in the advanced declaration of explicit wait. In the advanced declaration, you have pole frequency and you have ignored conditions, or I can say exceptions. If you get these exceptions, you just ignore. Don't bother about these exceptions. I am just making that explicit wait to ignore these exceptions. No such element exception, element not visible exception, element not selectable exception, as well as normal exception. This is what I am trying to specify to explicit wait. This is advanced declaration and this is basic declaration. And in those two types of declaration, I have just given one variable as my wait. I'm just using that my wait here. This is what you need to understand. Another important point is, which I am repeating again. Once you used explicit wait, you no need to use find element explicitly. The find element is already inclusive of explicit wait. Then, what is the use of pole frequency? I have just specified 2 here. You can specify any random value which you feel it is required. What is the use of pole frequency? That element to be loaded or to be presented in that particular web page, yes, within the specified time, it should be available on that particular web page. Otherwise, you just throw timeout exception. So you just say that, within this specified time, that particular element is not present. So I'm just throwing the timeout exception. Fine. So I want the WebDriver for every 2 seconds of this timeout, within this timeout, please go and check for this condition, or I can say for this element. When I specify 4 here, for every 4 seconds within this timeout, you just check this particular expression, particular element. So this is what the pole frequency does. Very important. Basic declaration as well as advanced declaration. So in this way, after declaring, you can use that particular explicit wait. So let me execute one more time. So I have specified the timeout as 10 seconds and pole frequency as 4. Let us try to see what it will do. Yes. Anyway, this element will not be found on the particular web page. Intentionally, I have given the wrong locator to make you understand that how this WebDriver wait or explicit wait will work. So see, timeout exception within this specified time, this particular element is not found. So in this way, you can use sleep module, implicit wait as well as explicit wait.